I see Jack Daniels or somebody selling it, stuff mixed, like Jack and Cokes. Just buy it, ready to go. Yeah.
I heard
Yeah.
Bacardi's doing that with Diet Pepsi.
Yeah, exactly. So Luke, I know Tom's helping you get acclimated. Maybe you can get him to get here on time. I've been trying for,
Put a bird in his ear.
you could groom him maybe a little bit for his,
So what is the over-under tonight?
yeah, we had an over-under the other night at P and Z and everybody lost, it was so late.
Lost, yeah.
The meeting was almost over before he even
Yeah.
As he walked in.
So I'm gonna, before the meeting starts, I want everyone to be aware, because we had meetings earlier tonight, 3 of them, and you think you're off mic, don't ever think you're off mic. You're in this room and there's a mic in front of you, you gotta assume it's on and people are listening. So when you say something, make sure it's something you don't mind Ann hearing or anyone else, so. There's a delay, there's a lot of things going on. You see- Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Well, we're gonna get rid of them soon, trust me.
We can get rid of them now, once we go back to,
Oh, if we go back full board, we're, yeah.
Yeah, but if you get rid of them, then you can't hear them.
You can't do that. You'd be able to record the little thing. We always recorded them before we had.
Well, that's fine for me, but the people who are
Yeah,
watching.
but we're gonna make it,
Well, right, I'm saying that they need to come here if they want to
Well,
see it.
okay. Okay.
okay? Is that like 7 o'clock, Joe? Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everyone. It's nice to see everyone's faces again. No masks, no, if we get rid of the mics, it'll really be good. Additions or deletions to the agenda. Approval of minutes from May 13th. Is there a motion to approve?
so move.
Any discussion? Take the roll, please.
Blue,
Yes.
Weish,
Yes.
Morrow. Klein,
Abstain.
Hornung,
Yes.
Arganti.
Yes.
Payment of bills, the amount of $821,823.52. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
We had 2 loan payments of about $500,000, 3 of them actually, semi-annual payments. We had a new cruiser come in at $38,000. So if you back all those things out, it's a pretty frugal month, basically, so. Take the roll, please.
Weish,
Yes.
Morrow,
Yes.
Klein,
Yeah.
Hornung,
Yes.
Arganti.
Yes.
Blue.
Yes.
Finance report, Nick.
Good evening, everybody. We had a really good month last month. Went over in finance, some record-breaking numbers. I'll start with income tax. Income tax last month was a collection of about $361,000, which is a very large month. When you add that into where we're already at through April, we've already almost collected $2 million already, and we're in May. So that's extremely impressive. When you compare that to 2019, pre-pandemic, but still pretty much all 1 1/4, we collected 1.5 million. So to put that in perspective, we're up over 400,000 or right around 400,000 more in income tax. And when you do some math and divide 400,000 in by that 1 1/4, that's a impressive amount of wages and revenue. And if you look on our sheet that got emailed out to council, the direct withholding is about $1.3 million, compared to in 2019, it was 1.1. So again, you have almost $200,000 worth of wages, income tax collected on wages. So again, to think about how much employment growth that takes, to be able to bring that in is pretty impressive. Yeah, I think this is yours. Yeah. Sorry, Bill. Okay, so moving on, when we talk about water and sewer as well, very impressive. Sewer is higher than it was in 2019 at this point. Water is higher than it was in 2019, obviously higher than it was in 2020 with the shutdowns that went on from basically March, April, and May. We would expect to see the type of increase we have comparatively, but again, when you look back at 2019, it's very impressive. Expenses, believe it or not, compared to 2020, we've actually spent less through this period of time than we did a year ago. I wish I could have something negative to say, like I said, in finance, but it's been handled very great by all the department heads, by council, by mayor. And we're at the point where we're actually about to, and I'd have to look back historically to see if and when this has ever happened, but we're about to have a total balance in our statement of cash, revenue, and expense of almost $10 million. And we were talking in finance about the fact that 8 years ago, we didn't even have $3 million. It was getting a little bit nerve-wracking. So really impressive turnaround. Money's been managed well, and we'll talk about ways to make sure for the future here in the village that these good times that we've had are saved. So that way nobody's, recklessly spending or because things can change quickly. As we know, the economy can change, mayor could change, things happen, so.
Let's hope not.
I'll second that, Ben.
So that's the deal. So if there's any questions, like I said, in summary, an extremely impressive period of time here in the village. 2021 has been extremely impressive. There's great health abound, and we've got some businesses that are about to start here in town soon, and organizations that aren't even in this yet. So really great times for Middleville Village. So
So we mentioned tonight, even though the numbers are great, people are still not fully employed. I mean, they could be even better than they are if we could reach our potential. So I know there's a job fair on Saturday, which is going to try to help solve the issue, but everyone I talk to can't support what they need. I had someone try to rent a tent, and I called the rental place, and he said, I can get tents, I can't find anybody to put them up. I mean, it's just, everybody you talk to can't, the Circle Ks have closed now at 10 o'clock at night because they can't find help to run 24 hours. The factories having a job fair, 25 employers coming, Kim, Saturday? 25. So, 25 people in this immediate area need help. And they're needing help bad enough to go to set up a job fair and waste time and, expend energy.
Some of them work hard to get employees to cover it, because that's how bad it
it's ironic.
So now, the number's phenomenal, but it could be even better. We got ODOT coming on, we got the new metal company coming on. I said they're advertising, they want to open by August, which is not going to happen, but, so it's going to be, hope they can find help. It's like, so anyhow, we're doing everything we can to help solve that with the link on the website. I know I've had numerous employers call me saying they've gotten hits from that website, so we're trying to partner as much as we can, so. Anyhow, nice job, Nick, of keeping it simple and for us to understand. I think it makes a big difference when you can spend, because you've got the money, or you know exactly where you are, so it's made everyone perform better, so thanks for your effort as well.
Sure.
So. Okay, any questions for Nick? Ambulance report, it's in your packet, they just notify us they won't be here tonight. I know they did have a paramedic die. Did you hear that, Joe or Aaron?
I didn't hear about it until you told me.
So and I talked to Tony today, I think he was 42 years old, died of a heart attack, not on the job, but he wasn't in poor health. So, he didn't seem to be in poor health. Anyhow, they're all going to be at the funeral on Saturday, so they're going to have, I think UH is going to cover the area from 9 to 2 on Saturday as far as ambulance, and the fire department's going to assist them with paramedics if there's any calls, so I guess they're taking 2 units to the funeral, and the whole staff is going to go, so it's too bad. Okay, fire department report. They've got, because of the house fire in Huntsburg last week, they've got like a grief counseling session going on next door right now, so they're not here. It's in your packet as well. Another tragedy that's hard to fathom, but so if you have any questions for them, you can ask it. We can relay it to them as well. These reports are going to go fast. Economic report, Leslie's out today. It's the night off for everybody.
$10 million and everybody calls off.
Exactly. Her report's in the packet. We had a public meeting last night for the traffic study that's being done, asking for ideas. Sam attended. I was there for a couple minutes. Sam, you want to comment anything that you thought they did a great job of
I thought
presenting?
the consultants, I was actually quite surprised at how well they knew this village. They knew the streets, they knew the cut-throughs. They were very well informed about the layout of this village, and I was really impressed. What I was not impressed about was there was 5 people there, me included, when the mayor came in for a few minutes, so that made 6. But I know the word got out. I saw it in the papers. I saw it on the website. I saw it on the electronic board. But the apathy continues. So they're planning another meeting, public meeting in July, hopefully, and hopefully we have a better turnout. They're planning to put boards around town. I didn't quite understand how they're going to do this, but boards, Joyce was there, where you can put recommendations up, and they'll consider those recommendations for. I thought they had a lot of good ideas of what they were planning to do, but we're not there yet. So I would encourage next time we have a meeting, see if we can get people to attend. Because the more input we have, the better thing is going to be. This is our village, and we're talking about walking, we're talking about vehicles, we're talking about buggies, sidewalks, bicycles. These are things that impact our daily lives. I mean, we all have to move around the village. So crosswalks were a big topic, conversation. So it's something that's important that I think we need to support a lot better.
Some of the pandemic has taken away a lot of the wind on this whole project because it started last year and it got delayed, but we really need to give us some energy. Personally, we need to give us some energy to communicate to people and ask them to give their input, because you're right, the more the better, so.
Could we mention the suggestion that the notice go out with sewer and water bills?
Yeah, they discussed how to communicate to the community more efficiently, and the suggestion was to put notices in water bills or in text messages or on the emails, so that.
Can you robocall that,
I
Joe?
was just gonna say, that'd be,
Maybe I'll do that.
that hits everybody.
Actually, there was a woman at the meeting last night. I don't know who she was. Joyce, do you remember? Said she never got a robocall of any ever. So I don't know if it's.
Yeah, you got to sign
She
up for
said she
it.
signed up.
Do you know who she was?
I don't know who she
Because I'll
was.
send her a form again.
She
Okay.
was sitting in the back. Remember her?
My wife knew her, and she told me, and I can't remember what her name was, but. All right. Did they sign? Well, they probably didn't sign in. Okay, so she's working on that. She's still working on grant money. So she's very busy as well. Zoning Inspector John?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, council. Yes, last month we had 10 permit applications, 10 zoning permits were issued, and my report's in the packet. If anybody has any questions or comments for me, I'm gladly entertain that at this time. Folks have been very responsive to my zoning letters that I sent out. the car wash temporary sign, the gentleman called me today, so we're going to get in a workout situation, get him to, he's going to apply for the temporary sign, and then while that is in force, we'll work on more of a permanent solution. It's a little bit of a challenge site in that the car wash is behind the BT station, so we're going to have to work on that and be creative in how best presented on the main street.
How long can you leave that sign up?
75 days.
Holy cow.
It's not placed correctly, and we'd like it to look a little better, rather, be framed properly, and it's got kind of the posts are higher than the sign itself, so.
So I see somebody plowed into the Middlefield Bank entrance sign. You see that?
No, I didn't.
See that, Joe? The entrance, it's that,
Oh, yeah, the one
that alley to go to the bank. It's like, it's up against the post office.
Oh, okay.
is about 152 years old.
I know, but somebody shouldn't have been an accident. I mean, they plowed it.
If they reported it, you would see some of the people that pulled through there, you would see.
So speaking of signs, John, at the meeting last night, someone, I don't know, talked about signs at the end of Woodsong coming out onto 87, being in the way of being able to see
Oh, you
traffic
mean the
coming.
ones that are in the ground?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'll have to monitor that and push them back beyond, I don't like when they're placed beyond the stop sign, because it inhibits folks seeing.
Yes,
in
the ones that are stuck in the ground.
Yeah, we'll get those moved out of the way.
So John, when you pull signs out of the pocket park, what do you do?
In the pocket park? I put them behind.
Call them and say, don't do it again?
No, we're allowed to remove them.
I know, but
If they want them
every day
back,
I go
they're-
by, there's a new sign shoved in that. I mean, it's like, yeah, I'm saying if we got to somehow, we can't keep pulling them and somehow we got to stop the flow, I guess is my point.
that's a good idea. In the past, we have called them and said, you can't really place them in the tree lawn unless you've
Area
done.
under surveillance, $10,000 fine for putting a sign in there.
We could charge them $50 if they want it back, per sign, so.
All right. Any questions for John? Thanks.
Thank you.
Streets, Joe?
Okay. Doing our regular branch pickup, grass mowing, all the parks, garbage can emptying every day. Every garbage can that we have in this village fills up overnight. It's unbelievable. The bathrooms at all the parks, all the grass, wastewater treatment plant repairs, wastewater treatment plant repairs. Well number 2, our electric pump was finally finished rehabbed. They brought it all back with new casing, and somehow they miscalculated their measurements, and it was 3 feet too long. So they had to take it all back out, cut 3 feet of pipe off, and put it back in. However, it's pumping much better than it did before the cleaning. It's working fantastically. Did put lines on the senior center parking lot today. The senior center has some other fixings coming up. We're putting new bathroom stalls in there. Other than that, just all of our normal everyday stuff. Everybody's busy, very busy. The grass is growing, 3 inches a day.
Yeah.
It seems like as soon as we get done with one part of it, you're mowing it again.
I
Ball
tell you.
fields,
A story, I called Joe the other day, and I thought I saw Lexi mowing, and it was kind of behind Arby's, kind of like, why would she be, but it is our lot, I guess, so. I said, did we buy a camouflage mower? It's like, I said, no, why? So, she's driving a camouflage, it's got camouflage, here was mud. It was a Kubota lawnmower. It's like,
I called her and said, hey, could you spray that thing off when you're done?
yeah.
But yeah, it's just, you got to mow it. You can't let it sit. So,
Yeah, I'm saying,
as long as you're
obviously
not
being used.
Yeah, rutting it up. We're getting it done.
So have you got any applications for your part-time
One. Yeah. just got-
viable, or?
I'm not sure. It's a kid, young kid. I'm going to call him back for an interview. Hopefully he works out. He's local, so.
How did Splash Park open up? Was it problems? I mean, Sad Island?
Yes, it was a it was a huge problem. We got it running. First couple days, it was okay. One of the drains wasn't working properly, but it caught up. It was fine. And then the motion sensor stopped working. So Mike and I spent probably about 4 hours out there tracing lines because the lines that come out of the motion sensors in the ground change color when they come up to the box. So when you're looking at the wires in the controller, they're not the same color as the lines that go to the box. So it was hard to trace everything down. However, we just pulled the ballards off and tried to see what color the wires were going into the pole, and that's where all the wires were corroded. So we cleaned them off, stripped them down, redid them, greased them, put them all back together, and it worked fine. However, that thing is so old and getting outdated, the parts for it are just astronomical. I mean, for that little red pole that holds the eye, just the little post is $3,500. It's this big, made out of fiberglass. Got 4 bolt holes in it, $3,500. So I ordered some new skirting for a couple of the things, some new Lexan glass for the timers, but all that stuff's expensive. A new pump for the inside to control the acid and the chlorine. That pump by itself is $1,400. It's about this big. I mean, it's expensive. It's timely. It's costly. A lot of man hours, a lot of time, but it's running and it's running good.
Any way to update it?
Everything that they say no, but I mean.
There's no solid state controls and stuff that you can
Well,
switch to.
here's the problem, is that when it was first built, it was all that solid state controls, but every one of those things has a valve in it that we had to replace almost monthly, because when you have a metal valve and chlorine and acid, it just eats it up. So we did away with those valves in like the 3rd year that it was open, and now we do everything manually, and it works better, everything lasts longer. So it's just time consuming and costly. But everybody loves it. That's it for streets. Oh, Johnson and Thompson are done.
That?
Johnson and Thompson Street
Oh,
are
yeah,
done.
drove last night, looks nice. They did
It's
a-
fantastic. It really is. They did a good job. They'll be in probably Monday or Tuesday to band by 87 and band by 608, where the pavement comes out to meet, and then a strip of banding down by the curb, and it'll all be finished up.
Had 2 notes, Johnson and Thompson, the new swings are up.
Yeah, new swings are up.
The mulch in for that?
Yep. Yeah, they pumped it in. Yep.
Can I ask you something, Joe, just out of curiosity? I noticed on all the roads that you put that special treatment down,
Reclamate.
yeah, the Reclamate, the line, when you paint, it seems like the paint deteriorates quicker on those streets. Is that true, or is that, it seems like it fades quicker? I was just curious if that.
I have not. I don't
Okay.
know.
I may be wrong. Because I drive that every
Yeah.
day,
Because that one, I think we did, well, the lines went on, the lines might look a little darker because they put the Reclamate on over top of those lines.
Oh, okay, that's probably, all right.
That's probably why.
I was just curious if that was a thing, all right.
Lines are overrated.
Right. Can't go left to center if there's no center.
Police report, Joe? Aaron?
Okay, for the
Don't
month
quote
of
me,
May. 29 total traffic citations, no parking citations, 7 charges, 110 verbal warnings, 11 total crashes, no OVIs, 495 calls of service, second busiest month this year, 25 lockouts, 6 alarm drops, 4 thefts, 1 domestic, 9 assist to outside agencies, and 1 warrant arrest. I really think we had more than 1 warrant arrest.
No, they were turning a lot away because of.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, the jail won't take them. Other than that, everything else is going pretty good. Patrick Cooney is on his own. He's worked a few shifts already. Spittler, Dawson, and Nadeau attended the Ohio Tactical Officers Conference this week. Everybody attended autism awareness training and bias-based policing training and an OVI refresher. And Boxler is scheduled to go to advanced interrogation school this week coming up. And the new Tahoe is in and getting ready to go and get put together probably Monday.
So everyone's aware of the incident that Dawson and the Dowd had.
You sent out an email, right?
Give an update on,
Sure. So while they were at training, they got into the accident. Dawson was pretty banged up. Nadal ended up going to the hospital for a severe concussion. However, after about 24 hours, he was almost back to normal, so he stayed at the class. They were able to finish up, but Dawson's vehicle was completely totaled.
What happened exactly, Joe?
Somebody pulled out in front of him.
On Route 250 there in Sandusky, or?
I'm not sure exactly where they were at, but it was a fast-moving road, and when they pulled out, Nadal and the guy next to him both hit the car.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so he pulled out in front of 2 lanes of traffic.
so it wasn't a fender bender.
Yeah, no, it was.
Our guys
completely-
had their seatbelts on?
Yeah, as far as I know.
Okay, any questions for police? Parks and Recreation. Had a rec meeting earlier tonight. We had a group here from Woodsong that want a pickleball court. And we're gonna look at it. Jimmy thinks he has an idea to put it in a gym up here, the old elementary gym, where all I do is add tape and buy a net they could use, so we'll see how that works out. We had, they gave us a new program for the fall sports program. The spring sports are almost wrapping up. I have stats for that, so it looks like the money's working out for the school, the $50,000. It's working out for us. We're spending less money on recreation. To me, it looks like the programs are more successful than they've been for a few years. So I think it was a good move to take this approach, so we'll move forward. Public participation. I have a couple of comments. I mentioned the garage, or the job fair this Saturday. When's your garage sale, the community garage sale?
July 9th.
9th and 10th? It's Friday and Saturday? Vicky had suggested running that sign, and Carrie told me tonight, $390?
$360 in less than a month.
To me, it shows people see value in it because they're paying to rent it. Yeah, $10 a day.
Right, I
so.
know.
And I like the cycle time on it better, Carrie. I mean, to me, I get a lot more out of it than I did, so.
Yeah, I dropped the welcome ones down to 2 seconds, and the rest of them are all between 5 and 8, depending on how much information's on them.
So Jeff Naples turns 50, our rec person, and she's going to have that on the sign, so we all need to make sure we see when that goes up. Okay, we got a public hearing, 6/18, for ordinance 21-122. And we have a public hearing tonight at 7:30, right?
No, that's,
Or July 9th, I'm sorry. For tax budget.
Are we meeting on 6/18 then?
We are.
At noon, here?
It's
I don't know if I ever put that in my calendar.
Zoom.
it's a Zoom.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a new meeting, but it's just a Zoom meeting. We've got a first readings, Resolution 21-08, a resolution expressing the support of the Village Council for proposed House Bill number 62, designating the state of Ohio as a Second Amendment sanctuary state and declaring an emergency. We brought this up last meeting, and there was some concern from some council members about the wording, how it affected police. We have since then asked Lieutenant and Chief to review it and give us their perspective, so they're prepared to do that. Tom, you've looked at it, I know you have perspective on it. So we're going to get everything on the table here, and we'll take it to a vote. So, go ahead, Tom.
I had 2 comments. I also asked Luke to take a look at it and actually have him have,
Thank you.
sorry about that. I actually asked Luke to take a look and give independent thought to it. 2 comments. One is procedural and one is substantive. The procedural one is, this is a House bill that is currently now before the Senate, and it may go to the Senate, may have some changes, and there may be conference committee. So my recommendation to council would be, before you do anything, why don't you wait and see what the final legislation is, so that whatever you do would be consistent with the final legislation. That doesn't mean don't put it on first reading, but before you actually pass something, you want to make sure that whatever you do is consistent with what the state legislation is. Because the state legislation is, you do not want to be inconsistent with the state legislation. The second comment is, is directed to some provisions of the bill I think are dangerous in terms of what they do, in terms of police liability and village liability. They create a private cause of action for a citizen who believes his Second Amendment rights are violated by any action of any public officer. So if I'm arrested for carrying a concealed weapon, and I think that's a Second Amendment violation, even though it's a state law, I have a right to sue the police officer. Doesn't mean I'm going to win, but it means I have a right of a cause of action, and it means that the village is going to have to defend that cause of action. If we win, we get our legal fees, if that person can afford to pay them. But that's going to affect insurance costs and some other potential costs like that. It would affect anybody who claims that his fully automatic weapon that he's been firing around the village is a Second Amendment right. It's hard to imagine what could happen for somebody claiming the Second Amendment protects certain conduct that we might actually want to prohibit, notwithstanding Second Amendment rights. It doesn't mean it has to be a valid Second Amendment claim. It just means it has to be a Second Amendment claim, and someone could say, I believe this is a Second Amendment right of mine, therefore I'm suing you for charging me for this or stopping me from doing that, when a police officer is simply trying to keep the peace. So I think that part of it is a little bit dangerous, particularly the part that creates the private right of action for somebody who feels their rights are violated. And that's the really dangerous piece of this, is that private lawsuit, because somebody that's going to attract plaintiffs' lawyers like flies.
I would echo those comments, and particularly on the procedural issue, my thought is that the Senate may clean this issue up. It's hard for me to believe that the Ohio legislature would pass a law that gets rid of qualified immunity for police officers. But the concern is, as Tom stated, and I worry about instances where a weapon is confiscated in connection with an arrest, and then charges are either dropped or dismissed for whatever reason, and all of a sudden you have a civil cause of action on your hands. So that qualified immunity is removed here that we would normally enjoy, and I think that is a concern in terms of the village's support of the proposed legislation.
My understanding was a little different. These guys are lawyers, so they probably know best. The way I read it is it says law-abiding citizen. So if you're following the law and you're doing everything you're supposed to be doing, then we have no reason to take your guns, okay? What I think law-abiding citizen means here is anybody that's not breaking the law, or anybody that, so if we catch you in a violation of law where you're not supposed to have a concealed carry, we're still able to do that by doing what we would normally do, make an arrest and taking your weapon. But it qualifies as a law-abiding citizen, then you're covered under a Law-Abiding Citizen Act. So you're allowed to have a gun, you're allowed to do that. I think what the bill is trying to say is that if the federal government were to come down and say, okay, now you're going to take everybody's guns, then at that point, then you're civilly liable. We're not taking anybody's guns, even if the federal government told us we were going to.
Aaron, do you want to say something?
No, I think,
You got to get on a mic somewhere.
so when I first read it, I had the same take as both the attorneys did, and then when I talked with Joe, he kind of swayed me the other way. But I do think it needs to be cleaned up first. There's a lot of unknowns there. So my personal opinion would be that I don't think we should vote on it tonight, or not we, but you guys should vote on it tonight, just because there's too many unknowns in that bill at the moment.
So I talked briefly to Diane about this, and it was a brief conversation, so I'm not an expert on it by any means. It was a 5-minute conversation. It was in there to protect, so if the turn into a police state where the government said, you go take everybody's guns, you as a law officer don't get the immunity because you're doing something that violates the Second Amendment. So it's to protect us from you if you become an agent of the government in a position that we don't think protects us for our Second Amendment rights. That's the reason it's written the way it was. So I understand that perspective as well, and I think that's a good perspective, because it becomes, well, you're on the wrong side of the law, in my opinion, for my Second Amendment rights, I should be able to come after you. So,
Yeah, I think the provision was written in good faith, and that this is a law-abiding citizen, but you could easily have somebody say, hey, I was obeying the law today, and the fact that I've got 10 felony convictions that say I'm not allowed to have this gun, and the fact I've got a restraining order that says I can't carry a gun in the presence of my ex-wife, those are laws that are prohibited by this. And so I believe my Second Amendment rights are prohibited, and I'm now suing you personally, and I'm going to take your house. And qualified immunity's gone. Your good faith belief that you were entitled to take his gun away from him because he was flaming drunk that night and had all these, that's all gone, and now you got to defend the case. And even though ultimately the case would probably be won, there's a lot of expense there. And the qualified immunity is there because what it does is it protects police officers for good faith decisions, even if you're wrong. That's I think, as Luke points out, I think that's something the legislature is going to say. We really want to have good faith, be good faith, and try to protect people. I know Representative Grindell is trying to worry about the police state situation, but we've got to worry about some of this other stuff that's going on in courts right now, and the number of people that are getting, the number of police officers getting sued and tied up in courts, and that may be the bigger concern. But we'll see what the final bill looks like.
the original intent was to make us a sanctuary village for Second Amendment. So is everyone in favor of that? Leaving this out of it? This bill has nothing to do with anything. We could be a sanctuary village for Second Amendment rights.
How do you do that without, the only way this law works is by those 13 words. 13 words, sovereign, official, and qualified immunity is not affirmative defense in this action. Without those words, this law doesn't work because you have no enforcement. So if you want to become a sovereign village, then you'll have to say you'll get rid of qualified immunity because otherwise you can't enforce it. So I've got here from the Ohio Legislative Service Commission their fiscal and local impact statement on this particular bill. And it reads, and this is their statement, not mine. The bill allows any person who believes that a law enforcement officer or supervisor of a law enforcement officer has taken any action that would render that officer or supervisor ineligible under this bill to serve in such capacity to pursue an action they can pursue an action of declaratory judgment in court. If an officer is found by the court to be ineligible to serve, the bill requires the immediate termination of any enforcement officer who is determined by a court to be ineligible to serve on this provision, and the payment and court costs and attorney's fees by the agency that employed the terminated officer. Furthermore, it declares that if a declaratory judgment is granted against a state or local government agency, costs associated with that judgment could be in the thousands of dollars or more for plaintiff attorney fees. Additionally, it is unclear if bargaining unit appeals will be made after the fact by members affected by the civil action, thus creating costs for the affected state or local government employer, us. As such, local civil justice systems and the courts of claims which hear damage claims against state and its employees could see an increase in hearing-related costs. The state and political subdivision would see an increase in litigation expenses. And we're seeing this because of those 13 words, because you're taking away the qualified immunity that allows an officer not to be sued just for doing his job. I think the bill has some really good language in it in support of the Second Amendment, but I think it could have some poor language in it when it comes to the defense of police officers. I think it jeopardizes them, it It brings them up against lawsuits, fines, loss of employment. I cannot support it. I cannot see them cleaning this bill up without taking those 13 words out. Because without those 13 words, in my view, and I'm not a lawyer, this bill doesn't work.
I think Tom and Luke are probably right. We probably need to wait until it goes to the Senate committee and see if it gets cleaned up.
It may not even get passed.
You have a problem with the way it reads now? I thought we'd,
Look, like I said, my understanding of it is only if you're infringing on somebody's Second Amendment rights, if the government were to send us to go to take your guns. And but that's my interpretation.
that's the intent of the way it was written.
Right. It's not if, but like Tom said, it leaves
The
you,
lawyers lead us straight. I can think of 100 reasons why you can't do anything.
it does leave a lot of window for unnecessary litigation.
As point of reference, the state of Colorado has already eliminated qualified immunity for police officers.
There's more than just Colorado. I think
Well,
Delaware
they're
just
now
did it
looking
too.
for insurance to cover their officers.
Right.
This creates all kind of problems.
Okay, we'll table it until it comes out of Senate. And we may kill it, we may pass it. Any other comments from anybody? Go to Resolution 21-10, a resolution ratifying the mayor's imposition of a temporary moratorium pursuant to terms of ordinance 20-113 on the granting of any occupancy permit authorized in a community-based residential social service facility in any zoning district, pending the enactment of legislation amending the regulations governing said facilities and declaring an emergency. Tom, you want to,
Yeah, Mayor, this is an action taken by the Executive Committee pursuant to the emergency pandemic legislation. We declared a moratorium on issuing any occupancy permits. This really relates to group home occupancy permits primarily and R3 zoning. There's a concern that's articulated later in the other legislation, changing the R3 zoning for group homes. Well, not solely R3, just for group homes throughout the village, and setting them all up as being conditional use permits. That's going to be before you tonight on first reading, and then before you on a special readings for a public hearing later in the month. But the idea is that there'd be a moratorium on any permits being issued until that legislation gets considered and possibly passed. So the moratorium was passed by the executive committee. That requires your ratification, and pursuant to the procedures we have established, we generally do that by a resolution or by an ordinance, and do that as an emergency measure.
so it's a follow-up, is executive privileges being extinguished with the wines activity?
We researched that.
Second.
He is, that particular ordinance is in effect as long as the declaration of an emergency, which DeWine declared a year plus ago, is still in effect. He has pulled back almost everything, but he has not pulled back the declaration of emergency, so that it's still in effect now. It may not be very much longer, but the declaration of emergency has not been rescinded yet.
My point was, you verified when we did this, it was
Yes.
still in effect, and we were perfectly
Yeah.
fine to do that, so.
And there have been no applications for those kinds of occupancy permits. But we just want to make sure that while we're considering doing a legislative change for the zoning, that somebody can't come in and say, oh, here's my application, let me get in under the wire. So we do it's a pretty typical zoning move, that if you're planning to change your zoning, you say, okay, we're not going to accept any any applications while we consider the zoning. And you can do that there's a U.S. Supreme Court case on it doing that for up to a year is perfectly constitutional.
Okay, is a motion placed on first reading declared emergency?
So moved.
Any further discussion? Take the roll, please.
Morrow?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Hornung?
Yes.
Arganti?
Yes.
Blue?
Yes.
Weish?
No.
Oh, the more, yeah. I'm sorry, I should have waited the readings.
A motion to pass.
Second,
Second.
take the roll, please. I was thinking-
Klein?
Yes.
Hornung?
Yes.
Arganti?
Yes.
Blue?
Yes.
Weish?
No.
Morrow?
Yes.
Luckily, the motion passed. Another action by Ron Weish that I find appalling. So,
That's fine.
yeah.
I find it appalling, we're gonna tell people what they can do with their houses when they sell them.
I'll motion.
Needed a motion? No, we're
No,
done.
we're dead.
21-122, an ordinance amending chapters 1135 and 1153 of the codified ordinances to update the village's zoning regulations as they apply to various types of community-based social service facilities in various zoning districts. Declared an emergency. This is going on first reading.
Right, this applies to the community-based social services use, and it alters slightly the types of uses. It does not prohibit them at all, or do anything, as you suggest, Ron, that prohibits what people can do when they sell them. It just changes the procedure for getting permission to do that, and makes it a conditional use permit, which requires a hearing before the planning commission. Just be on first reading, there'll be a hearing on that on the 18th.
Is there a motion?
A motion. Second.
Take the roll, please.
Hornung?
Yes.
Arganti?
Yes.
Blue?
Yes.
Weish?
No.
Morrow?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Ordinance 21-123, an ordinance enacting new codified ordinance, chapter 1313, entitled Abatement of Nuisances and declaring an emergency. Tom, you want to give some detail on that, please?
Yeah, actually, that's Luke's baby.
Oh, Luke's baby.
This is a ordinance that's designed to fill a gap in our code, and that will allow for more aggressive enforcement of nuisance conditions. We undertake a comprehensive definition of the term nuisance to include conditions that relate to noxious weeds or overgrown grass, conditions of dilapidation or obsolescence or the collection of junk, and then conditions that relate to criminal conduct. And we create a method of enforcement that, generally speaking, involves notice to the homeowner, followed by remediation of the work if the remediation is not performed by the homeowner, then an order to the owner to pay, and if costs of the work are not paid for by the owner, assessment of the cost to the tax duplicate. The real guts of the ordinance are in section 06, which provides for, in instances of dilapidation and obsolescence, the ability to either pull an occupancy certificate or order demolition of the home. And in those instances, the one procedural difference is that we bring that matter to council for a vote and approval first. So I think it'll allow our zoning inspector and our folks in our fire department to be, to yield a hammer, if you will, with respect to properties that are troubled.
We talked earlier tonight, it's a shame that we have to enact this legislation. I mean, it should be, you would hope people would act responsibly and not need this type of motivation to get things done. But we have proof and evidence of that, John, that doesn't always work, so.
One thing I omitted, as Tom and I talked, we think that this may appropriately be referred to the Planning Commission for some discussion about the grass and weed provisions that are in the nuisance abatement ordinance on the one hand, and your existing Chapter 557, I think, on the other, just to make sure that dollar amounts and other procedural aspects are consistent.
We did distribute the other night at P and Z. We really didn't discuss, but we did look at it and talk about it a little bit, so we'll do that, so.
So we're recommending first reading for this and let people look over it. There's not a real urgency to get a nuisance prosecution going yet, but let it go that way. We'll figure out the weed abatement and zoning prosecution stuff for cutting grass, and those typical things have typically been handled by planning and zoning, and we wanted to let planning and zoning have consideration of that stuff one last time before it went to council for final. So we have that ready for you next month, based on what P and Z says next month.
Good. Motion placed on first reading.
I'll move. Second.
Take the roll, please.
Arganti. Blue. Weish. Morrow.
Yes.
Klein.
Yes.
Hornung.
Yes.
Second readings, ordinance 21-120, an ordinance reclassifying Pat Brent to the title of lead wastewater plant operator, lead water plant operator. It's motion placed on second reading.
Second.
We had any
I
app-
missed last meeting. Can you guys just bring me up to date what we're doing there?
We need to hire someone for succession planning in that department. So we really need to make Pat, so the person coming in, it can't be the same position. It's got to be
Okay,
so
thank you.
it really wasn't any kind of a wage change. It
Yes.
just need to make it structured that's correct, so. We had any applicants, Joe, do you know? So she changed the ad and put the money in, and I don't know if that's, it's like it should be right. They have the same problem everybody else has, can't find help. Paying people to stay home, man, that's what's wrong.
When you have to already have certain licenses to get hired for that, right? So I don't know how many applicants there are, you know what I mean?
That's probably the problem.
Yeah, the pool is small, but I thought we would get someone that's much more closer to home, or,
How long does it take to get those kind of licenses?
Not long, it probably takes 6 months to a year to step up in each one.
And like, do you have to go to certain classes, or you would do that on-the-job training?
On the job, online.
And like, would we offer to pay for that? Like to hire somebody in Green who could just go start the work and then?
so I wonder if we shouldn't hire someone that has the aspiration to be,
Right,
and
that's
put
what
them
I'm,
through the training and pay for the train to get it done, because.
Probably a good idea.
you could help with your part-time stuff at the same time. Yeah, I'd be a village employee, but training towards that.
Okay, motion placed on second reading?
So moved?
Oh, did I?
No.
Thanks. Did you take the roll yet?
I have not. Did I, Carrie? Okay.
Go ahead, take the roll.
Weish.
Yes.
I need cue cards. You should-
Yes.
Luke's over there going, holy crap, these guys.
Weish.
Yes.
Morrow.
Yes.
Klein.
Yes.
Hornung.
Yes.
Arganti.
Yes.
Blue.
Ordinance 21-121, an ordinance amending existing section 113505A of the codified ordinances to correct a technical error in the text of said section. Is there a motion to place on second reading?
So moved.
Second.
Know what this is about, Scott?
Yeah, I read this one. You know what's funny is when it says bi-monthly, that's so vague anyway. Is that every other month or is that twice a month? It was like, poor, Tom, did you write that years ago?
No, it existed before my time.
All right, just checking, big boy. It was like, what if it's bi-weekly? Is that twice a week or every other way? I mean,
It could be either, but.
Take the roll, please.
Morrow.
Yes.
Klein.
Yeah.
Hornung.
Yes.
Arganti.
Yes.
Blue.
Yes.
Weish.
Yes.
So under old business, we have mural location. We've changed the wall to the Good News Building facing the parking lot, muni parking lot. It's got a lot more visibility than the one over here.
Yeah.
Came back, he wants $200 more to do it because he has to prep that brick, seal it differently than he did over there. So it's not much, and I think he quoted $300 to touch up the mural that's on the side of MT,
oh, wow.
always here, so I think it'd be nice, you have a mural here and a mural here, and it's like both visible, so we'll probably move forward with that fairly quickly.
What is the
So-
total cost of it then?
Like 11 grand.
Okay.
We had discussion about the design. Heard people say they didn't like the arch idea. That's where we're kind of moving forward with this. We have someone that has some better idea. Kind of did a panel of industry, a panel of recreation, a panel of agricultural. If we want to change it from the Roman-looking arches to something that paint's different, I don't care, but I think we really need to put that, I thought that transition idea was good.
I haven't seen a picture of it yet. I don't think so.
Wasn't at the last meeting.
I'll show you a picture of it.
Okay.
He had done it, all three things the same, and we suggested that he take one pane. It's kind of like a bridge, and the legs of the bridge come down, so there was three segments of this bridge. And then he had three all the same, and we said, well, let's put industry in one scene.
Columns.
Gotcha.
It looks nice.
I'm sure it does.
Nick didn't like it.
Well, I like the idea of
Look
the three
Roman.
different things, but it doesn't fit with Middlefield Village. Like, the Roman thing doesn't make sense. There's nothing here that's old architecture. In fact,
Make it look like a window pane or something. That's what I was thinking,
I
bridge.
like the idea of it. Yeah, I do too. I just think it just doesn't, it's not Middlefield. Like, I don't know. That would make more sense.
Yeah, that would be nice too. Yeah.
That's the coolest thing John's ever said.
And he said a lot of cool things, so that's a compliment.
I'll second that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that.
Right, John and Cool don't go together very well.
Aw, poor John.
So many ideas, so little time.
I don't care how we frame it. I just thought we need to get, I thought the idea of three frames, three different scenes would.
Yeah, that is cool, but I like the barn idea. That's
I
cool.
think that's a good idea, because it goes with what,
Do you
Yeah.
paint, John?
yeah.
Do you paint?
I'll do it for 10-5.
Houses and stuff like that.
So, communicate that to Leslie and see if she can talk to, I think his name's Tom. He came down, looked at the wall and everything, so we're all set. We'll just get it, give some renderings and let council do it. All right. Thanks. Website, Kim? Here, she can take the mic right off that stand there. It's got to turn the switch on.
Can't we just get like 12 hanging mics? Like,
Yeah.
you know what I
Okay.
mean? This is
So you
stupid.
don't censor yourself, Scott.
Yeah.
That one on the
So we were down a little bit, 2% from April, so no big change there. We were down 25% from last year, but prior month we were down 35%, so little growth there. So hopefully with more events and more photos and more stuff, we'll just continue to climb. Mobile viewers are still low because they've been in the 60s and high 60s. They're at 58% right now. And that's an indicator that people are getting on their phones and looking at photos or whatever else. Top pages, Eagle Park, taxes, calendar, police, utilities, announcements.
And police coming in fourth behind Eagle Park.
Well,
now.
actually, see, the blotter
Taxes.
doesn't even make it anymore because it's all fragmented. So it's influencing the numbers, but it's not a large number because it goes weekly instead of monthly. So the police get enough attention just themselves. That isn't even including the blotter. Am I done?
So, have we gone through the website to make sure it's updated? You know, I sent an email a couple weeks ago about businesses that were missing.
We did, and I just added another one that we missed too, the one in Harrington Square.
So, John, are you gonna communicate with them? You're gonna try to make that the process?
So I even need to know about name changes. This one was a name change that was Great Lakes, and they're now in Inkscapes, and I was just driving through Harrington and realized it. I don't know how long it's been that, about a week or two. So how do I find out about those? Carrie, do you get notifications?
a sign permit, and if in fact they are changing their sign.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So any of those.
Or on Mountain Mountains, when we see that something looks different, then
That'd be good.
let you know.
Do they have to do anything with income tax that Tish would know ahead
That's
of
what
time?
Nick just said. Nick should have, or Tish should have a list of every business that, you know.
But at least I know they exist and I can figure them out.
Well, work with John, that'll get a majority of them, because most of them get, name changes aren't as common as new businesses, so. All right. What do we have to do with this correction of this ordinance, Tom? Correction to ordinance 21, 21, 22 is originally published on tonight, it's already done. All right.
She's gonna do a mic drop.
Sure you shut it off.
And that's the web report. Out.
So item number 3 on our new business, I've had a lot of complaints from residents on the Elmwood, Cedarwood, maybe the chip and seal that we did. I know they chip and sealed 88 a couple years ago by the turkey farm before we get to, huh? Well, that's what I thought we were gonna do. I mean, I really think it was, so anyhow, I've had a lot of complaints. Bill, you live there, you've heard a lot of complaints. I drove down the other night and it's still spilling gravel off the edge, as you can see it, so. I would like to see it paved. All the repairs are done, there's no better time in my mind. Did you? All right. So is council in favor of, we get a price that we can afford, is council in favor of moving forward with that? I think,
I am.
they all pay the same taxes we pay, we've all got better streets than they do. And I think we should give them exactly what, So going forward, if that's what chip and seal looks like, I hope we don't chip and seal any more roads. I hope we can afford to do it. My fault, I'm not blaming anybody but myself. Yeah, I'm saying, it's a good price, I've seen chip and seal, it looks like pavement to me after 6 weeks, it's like, this, after a year, doesn't look like I envisioned it, so, we'll get a price, if we can get it paved, we'll get it paved. Now, no better time to do it when it's in great shape, so it's just an overlay, so. It's gonna be a little challenging on the edges, the way it looks. Yeah, all right. All right. So I don't think our money was totally wasted, because it was, did a lot of repairs and, yeah, all right. So Geauga County Budget Commission, LGF revenue discussion regarding proposed new allocation method. Nick, can you talk to this?
Yeah, Jess and I actually went on and watched as the county went through and discussed it. When we watched it, the main thing that was discussed is how they're going to allocate based upon population, and then really, they're gonna cut out the park district from the equation for the most part. The way I guess that it was written originally, they were giving the park district a portion of the citizenship, I guess, and they would get a certain amount based upon so much, and they're going to change the way the equation is, where they won't get it, because they had a problem where, and Hunting Valley was getting money too.
Hunting Valley was getting, they weren't all in.
And they're, right, and they're not in Geauga County, but the other thing about the parks was, the concern was, if we were to start our own little park district here, you could technically double dip and get the same funds based upon the way that it was written for the same amount of citizens. So they're changing that equation.
They cut all those parks out.
Yeah,
They look-
right,
cut
that's
those
the
3
point.
parks out,
Yeah, they're
And they
out.
cut out Hunting Valley's
Right.
total.
Yeah, because they felt, why should they be getting any portion of it? So, yeah.
It's only $3 grand?
Well, yeah, there was only, I think, 10 or 11 houses. I mean, it was very small.
That's why I have Tom explain. It cost us $4,000 to tell about it. About $3 grand we're
Yeah.
gonna get. Okay, so
And
it amounts to $3,000. Go ahead.
Well, the other thing is, then they're going to split the money that was going to the parks to all the different municipalities and townships. So we'll all get a little bit more money back each month. It's not going to be, a huge amount of money, but they're doing what they're doing to make things right, so. Yeah, I didn't see the.
No.
Yeah, based on the census. Yeah, so it looks like it'll be, what, about $4,000 for the year, roughly?
$3,600, I think.
Yeah, so, but again, I mean, it's nice that the county is looking at these types of things. Yeah, so 3840. It's nice that the county looks at these things and tries to get as much money for actual,
You do? Good, let's hear it.
The motion is a motion to approve the amended method of apportionment for the undivided local government funds for 2022, which was approved by the Geauga County Budget Commission at its meeting on May 25, 2021, pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 5747.53. Just requires a motion to approve that.
I'll make the motion, Ben.
Second?
A second?
Take the roll, please.
Arganti,
Yes.
Blue,
Yes.
Weish,
Yes.
Morrow.
Yes.
Klein.
Yes.
Hornung.
Yes.
Okay, Scott, you want to comment on planning commission meeting Tuesday night?
Yeah, the only thing that really came up at Planning and Zoning was the Ace Hardware is going to be putting in a propane refill center. So we looked at that and where it's going to be located and like as far as outdoor storage and whatnot, but we're not going to consider it like the bags of mulch and all that because those are seasonal and temporary, whereas this tank will be there at all times. So it met all, there was no variances needed. It met all zoning and everything else. So we approved that in perpetuity to be an outdoor storage place.
So what happened to ordinance 21, 113, and 114? We tabled them last meeting because Briar Hill has delayed their project. How do we keep those in front of us?
Well, they're on the table. They're just there, and you take them off the table whenever you want to move
I
forward.
just don't see it on the agenda anymore.
Is that the RPUD?
Yeah, the RPUD. I just want to make sure we don't lose sight of
Yeah,
it.
they should be on the pending, and just note that they're tabled at the May, whatever it was, meeting.
Took no action, so we need to keep them in front of us.
Do the same thing with the yep.
Yep.
Why did they
21-08.
delay?
Costs. They
Oh.
just think it's going to be
Oh, the lumber and everything?
40% more today than will be tomorrow.
Yeah,
So they just,
smart.
which is not healthy for,
No, anybody.
there was a spec building going up, 125,000 square foot spec building going up because people are always asking for space. That got pulled. So it's not a healthy thing for the village, but. Okay, we have executive session tonight for potential litigation, property acquisition, or just litigation?
Both.
All right, I motion we go to executive session.
Second.